It's a clear evening at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida, and on your screen is a live view of Falcon 9 as it prepares for its 7:10 p.m. Eastern Time launch from Space Launch Complex 40 in Florida. My name is Shiva, and I'm a Falcon Integration and Test Engineer here at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California, and welcome to our launch coverage of the JCSAT-18 Kacific1 mission. Now today we're launching a single high-throughput communications satellite with two payloads aboard, or two sets of communication equipment. One of the payloads is for SkyPerfect JSAT, and the other for Kacific. We'll hear a little bit more about that later on in today's coverage. Now at this point, we're just under T-minus 12 minutes and counting with all systems currently go, so let's take a closer look at Falcon 9 on the pad. Starting from the base of the rocket and working our way up, we have the first stage, atop that the second stage, and finally at the very top are our payload fairings, which encapsulate the satellite. Now the first stage makes up the bottom 2/3 of the vehicle, and it accelerates the rocket from the launch pad to the edge of the Earth's atmosphere using its 9 Merlin engines. Today's first stage is a little bit sooty, and that's because it previously flew 2 Dragon resupply missions earlier this year, CRS-17 and CRS-18. Today makes its third flight. We'll be attempting to recover this first stage on our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, which is currently stationed about 350 nautical miles off the east coast of Florida. Now, above the black composite inner stage sits our second stage, and its job is to carry the satellite into orbit. The second stage will separate from the first stage about 2.5 minutes into flight, and then it'll ignite its Merlin vacuum or MVAC engine. For today's mission, MVAC will ignite twice to carry the JCSAT-18 Kacific1 satellite to a geosynchronous transfer orbit. The first ignition should happen shortly after stage separation, and the second about 27.5 minutes into flight. Finally, the very top of the rocket is our nose cone structure called the payload fairing. It's 17 feet in diameter, and it protects the satellite from the atmospheric forces, heating, and contamination that occur during liftoff and ascent. Once we're at the edge of space, we'll jettison the fairing halves back to the Earth about 3.5 minutes into the flight. Now we are attempting to recover both the fairing halves today on our recovery vessels, Miss Tree and Miss Chief. Our hope is to catch one of the halves in Miss Tree's net and the other in Miss Chief's. We will not have live coverage of the fairing recovery attempt, but please stay tuned to our social media for updates as we receive them.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
Go for launch.
T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition, liftoff.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
Liftoff of Falcon 9, carrying the JCSAT-18 Kacific1 satellite to geostationary transfer orbit. Stage 1 is now in full power. Everything looks nominal. We're now, oh, you heard the call out for throttling down.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
Main engine cutoff, or as you'll hear it called out, MECO, is where all 9 engines of Falcon 9 first stage shut down. You just heard the call out for MVAC engine chill. Again, that's when we're pre-chilling those turbopumps on the second stage. On the left-hand side of your screen.
MECO.
Stage separation.
There we go. there on your screen, as the second engine, excuse me, as the second stage engine begins to glow a bright orange, we have confirmation
First
there
and second
of
stage are on a
both
nominal
of the
trajectory.
stage separation and second engine start 1. So on the left-hand side of your screen, that you'll see stage 1 as it begins its descent to the drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You. You can actually see the lights of Cape Canaveral there in the background.
Fairing separation is confirmed.
So as you see there, fairing has separated. Again, we are attempting to catch those on our recovery vessels, but we now have confirmation that second stage is performing nominally, and we are looking good so far for today's mission.
Stage 1, entry burn startup.
And there's relight of those 3 Merlin vacuum engines. Now, fun fact, JCSAT-18 was actually the first time SpaceX successfully landed a geosynchronous transfer mission on a drone ship.
Seagull 1.
Stage 1, landing leg deploy.
Hearing cheers. Waiting for confirmation. Now, a bunch of things happened there. Secondary engine cutoff number 1 just happened. The spacecraft is in a good target orbit. And booster 1056 has just recovered it for the 3rd time. This is our 47th successful landing.
Welcome back once again to our webcast for JCSAT-18 Kacific1. Second stage is currently over Africa, and in about 15 seconds, we'll have payload deployment. There on your screen, you see the deployment of JCSAT-18 Kacific1. I always love watching as the satellite floats away from second stage out into space. Again, this was geostationary transfer orbit. So with that confirmation of deployment, we will bring our webcast to a close. Thanks for tuning in for our liftoff from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, followed by a successful Stage 1 drone ship landing, and as you just saw, successful satellite deployment.
Thank you to our customer, Sky Perfect JSAT, and to Kacific for entrusting us with today's mission. We also want to give a big thanks to the Air Force's 45th Space Wing for providing range safety, and to the Federal Aviation Administration for licensing today's launch. Now, of course, we also want to thank all of you, our viewers, for tuning in to today's launch. Please follow our website and social media platforms for updates on our next missions and milestones. And until the next time, we hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening.